As I touched on, yesterday was a very important day for the Jewish community here in Sydney, and not only in Sydney, right across the country. As I've raised this morning, the federal court found that Islamic preacher Wissam Haddad vilified the Jewish community in lectures he gave, which were shared online. Justice Angus Stewart found that the preacher had perpetuated age-old tropes against Jewish people that are fundamentally racist and anti-Semitic, seeing him contravene Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. The case related to lectures given in delivering 3 lectures in November of 2023, just after the initial October 7 attacks on Israel, with the judge finding that 3 of the 5 speeches contained slurs about Jewish people that were, quote, reasonably likely in all the circumstances to offend, insult, humiliate or intimidate Jewish people in Australia. Now, the case was brought against Haddad by Peter Wertheim AM, who's a co-chief executive officer of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. We've spoken to him a number of times in the past, and I'm delighted to say he's back with us on the line right now. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mark.
Well, mate, it was certainly a landmark decision, wasn't it?
I think it was, and not just for the Jewish community, but I would say more broadly for the whole country, because ultimately, if racism is allowed to perpetuate itself in the way that Mr. Haddad spoke about the Jewish people, if that sort of speech was permitted against all the different ancestry groups and religious groups that we have in this country, we would know no peace. So it was really important to draw that line yesterday, and the judge did that. We're very thankful for the decision, and I think it's really it was a good news day for the whole country.
It certainly was. I saw you on the news last night, Peter, and what you had to say outside the federal court. You've had a chance to have a rest, have a sleep, and I know it's taken a lot out of you. How does it make you feel knowing that a court has ruled in your favour and made the right decision, in my opinion?
Well, it's always good to be vindicated by a court judgment. You know, nobody embarks on litigation with any guarantees of victory. We always thought we had a very strong case, but there's never any guarantees when you start a court case. We don't do these things lightly. In fact, the last time we brought a case like this was more than 20 years ago. So it's not something you do every day of the week. It takes a lot out of you, as you correctly pointed out. It costs a lot of money and a lot of resources, an awful lot of time. And frankly, you know, we'd rather be doing other things. But in this case, we felt we had a duty to our community and more broadly to the country at large to make the point that needed to be made in this case.
Well, Peter, what I wanted to say to you today, and I describe myself as a strong ally and friend of the Jewish community in Sydney and in Australia, and I think I'd speak on behalf of those people who have written to me saying, thank goodness you've had the courage to bring this case against Haddad. And I suppose it says a lot about some of the other human rights bodies we have in Australia that have sat there and watched all of this unfold and have done nothing about it. Now, admittedly, the police have launched investigations into Wissam Haddad, but, you know, where's the Human Rights Commission? Where are all these human rights bodies who should be taking this action rather than the Executive Council of Australian Jewry? Do you sort of understand what I mean?
Absolutely understand what you mean. Well, the whole human rights sector and, you know, the people who posture as champions of human rights in various parts of our community are dismissing inaction. That's the bottom line. And basically they were unsympathetic to our community. I think that they wouldn't probably admit that publicly, but it was abundantly evident to us. As far as police were concerned, I have a lot of respect for the police and law enforcement agencies. We work with them, and we cooperate with them. They have a tough job to do, and I have a great deal of respect for them. But sometimes even your friends let you down, and when that happens, you've just got to sort of have it out and have an open discussion about it. And we did make it very clear at the time that we were disappointed that no prosecutions had been brought, even though we thought there was an arguable case for a prosecution. They said their legal advice was to the contrary. We said, well, put it to the test. Take it to a court and see what happens. And if you're right, then we can at least point to that as an example of where our laws are inadequate and need to be reformed.
Was yesterday, Peter, a line in the sand moment?
Definitely was. That was the reason we brought the case, to draw that line in the sand. And the judge drew that line, as I said, with crystal clarity. It means you can have political debates about any issues you like. You can talk about conflicts in any part of the world. You can express your views. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong, whether you're ignorant or well-informed. As long as you don't use racial hatred against another group as a polemical tool to prosecute your case, to advocate your views, you're on solid ground. You can say what you like.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you've raised this, Peter, because some people write to me saying, "Oh, this is an attack on free speech." No. There's a clear difference between free speech and hate speech. And this Wissam Haddad, this Islamic preacher, is full of vile hatred and has, with what he said in his so-called sermons and lectures, which have been shared online, set out to go after Jewish people. And as I touched on off the top of the program, Peter, we don't want that hatred in this country. We're a peaceful society, or at least we should be, and I'm glad the federal court has found in your favour, because it sends a very clear message to all those people who want to go after somebody for their religious beliefs that it will not be tolerated in this country.
Absolutely. That was the point that has to be made. It's got to be a really clear principle. People can debate politics to their heart's content, but to mobilise hatred and bigotry and prejudice as part of that is intolerable. That's where this society will say you've crossed a line, and it's not going to be tolerated. It's unacceptable, and now we can say it's unlawful.
Yeah, it certainly is. Well, Peter, well done to you and to your colleagues in the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. I maintain that it shouldn't have been a case brought by the Executive Council of Australian Jewry to end up in this decision. It should have been brought by the Human Rights Commission. It should have been brought by the New South Wales Police. But I'm glad that we have courageous people like yourself, powerful voices within the Jewish community who are prepared to take their fight all the way to the federal court. And I'm glad His Honour found in your favour, because it's the right decision, it's the honourable decision, and it's a decision that sends a clear message that it will not be tolerated, this hatred in our country. I thank you for your time, Peter, and if there's anything you need from me into the future, you just give me a ring, okay?
Thank you, Mark. That's much appreciated.
Good on you, mate. Peter Wertheim, Co-Chief Executive Officer of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry. And, I maintain that while today we celebrate and we should acknowledge the role that the Executive Council of Australian Jewry has made, where's the Human Rights Commission? Where's the taxpayer bodies, taxpayer-funded bodies, human rights bodies that should be out there fighting these hate preachers, putting a stop to them, calling out their vile hatred? Where are all of them? Where are they? I'll tell you where they are. They're a leftist cabal. They should be defunded. And that's what a number of people have told me this morning in my discussions with them, knowing that I was going to have a chat to Peter Wertheim. While today we say well done to the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, we should also highlight the pathetic stance that's not only been taken by our elected leaders, but by those within the so-called human rights bodies that are supposed to be standing up for the human rights of not only everyday Australians, but Jewish Australians as well. You can have your say this morning on 131873. You can text me 0460 873 873. It's 10 minutes away from 10.
Why are we here? What is the nature of reality? Do I really need all that data to listen to history podcasts?
Huzzah! Question everything!
Especially your telco plan. Get the data you need at low prices with Aldi Mobile.
It's Larry here from the Chase Australia